Union.
The following is a sponsored program paid for by First Alliance Credit Union. Welcome to Good Money Moves, featuring Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
It's Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell. News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM with Jenna Taubel, Director of Brand and Digital Member Experience with First Alliance Credit Union. Hey, good morning, Jenna.
Hey, Andy.
Last week, we talked about the data leaks from the dark web and how to know if your debit or credit card was compromised. That was a great program, especially the information from data, what to do if you were caught up in all of this.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about today on Good Money Moves?
Today we are talking couples and finances. And I know it's a dangerous topic to bring up. You know, as we've talked about before, one of the biggest reasons that couples end their relationship or break up is really a lot of times over disagreements about finances and how to manage money. So specifically today, I wanted to talk about some of the steps that you can take with your partner to start to get on the same page financially so that talking money doesn't become a hot button issue.
Yeah, that's a shame that would be one of the top things that would break up a couple because, in my view, it shouldn't be that hard to get past that. But either way, this is going to be a great topic. And especially right now, when we're all thinking about taxes.
Yeah.
And people will either be getting money back from the federal government and state government and having that supposed luxury or having to pay money in to the IRS. And of course, the question of who's doing the taxes and handling the finances.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you take it away, Jenna. What's the next step?
Yeah. So the first step in having good conversations about money with your partner is actually pretty simple. And that is really around setting some financial goals together. And to do this, really all you have to do to get started is sit down with your partner and ask them what are some of their financial goals, and then really take a minute to listen without any judgments attached. You can start really by talking about some of your financial goals to get the conversation started and feel more comfortable. So maybe it is that you want to move out of your apartment and buy a home. Maybe you feel that it's time to buy a new car, or you want to spend some money and upgrade your wardrobe. Or maybe you just want to buy a really expensive espresso machine. Like that's your goal. Like there's no wrong financial goal. You know, no judgment, Sandy.
Oh, that's right.
You have to listen without judgment.
That's the hard part, right?
It is. But really, you know, whatever your goals are, share them with your partner and have your partner share their goals with you. Because sharing your goals with each other is going to help you figure out what goals you share and what each of your values really are. And from there, you can talk about which goals are the highest priority and how you can save money to reach all of these goals that you share together or that are even your individual goals. It's okay to have goals as an individual and have goals as a couple.
Sure.
So, you know, what you also are going to want to consider is really whether a goal that you and your partner have is more important than yours or vice versa. So, for instance, if your partner wants to go get a master's degree, you might put off some of your goals in order to help them get that degree, right? You might do this because...
Well, it's a mutual benefit, hopefully.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Once they have that degree, they'll be able to get a higher salary, which is, of course, a benefit to you in the long run. You know, alternatively, you might have a lot of credit card debt, but if you and your partner team up, you can pay that debt off faster. And that could really result in a higher credit score for your partner, which means you have a better chance of, you know, getting that qualifying for a home loan application that you need down the road. And really just having better interest rates across the board on any debt that you take out in the future, which, of course, again, is a benefit to your family unit as a whole. So, of course, you know, you might just prioritize your partner's goals over yours just because you want to make them happy. And that's okay, too. So really, this first step is all about talking with your partner about the financial goals that you have. And it doesn't just get you and your partner on the same page financially, it gets you on the same page as a team.
Yeah.
So it helps you just get to know each other better, which is always a good thing in relationships.
Right. And this first step, you can't de-emphasize the importance of it, because
exactly,
if you can't get past this one, you're going to really have a lot of problems with the other ones.
Yes.
So, and as you said, listen.
Yes. Yeah, no judgments.
All right. So, Jenna, we've had that heart-to-heart talk about our aspiration and goals as far as money is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And we're on the same page. What do we do now?
Yeah. So really the next step is also somewhat simple, but it can potentially be difficult. And that is, don't keep secrets from your partner. And this is good advice in general when it comes to relationships, but it is especially important when it comes to money and your relationship. So for instance, when you're sharing your financial goals with each other, maybe there are some goals you might not want to discuss because you think it's embarrassing, or you think they're going to laugh at a weird hobby that you have or that you want to pick up. Maybe you're afraid that the goal is too far-fetched, like you really want to move to another country. Whatever the reason is, though, don't hold back. If you do, at best, you're going to be giving up on a goal that might really mean something to you. And now you're sacrificing your ultimate happiness to be with your partner, which over time can lead to resentment. And at worst, you might decide to achieve your goal in secret, and your partner will be very unpleasantly surprised when they find out.
Very
Yes.
Unpleasantly surprised.
Yes, especially if it's, a big deal.
I have a friend who, he and his partner, and I would have loved to have been in on this conversation, all of a sudden came up out of the blue and they moved out of the country and bought a hotel in Central America. And and none of us saw it coming, but it ended up being one of them and brought it up, and the other one, hey, you know what? I love that idea. So you never know.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. And again, just because it maybe isn't a goal that you start working towards now doesn't mean that it isn't something that you can continue to have a conversation about. Maybe now in your life is not the right time to work towards that goal, but it's something that, 5-10 years from now, maybe you'll be in a place where achieving that goal makes more sense. But you won't know that until you have those conversations. So it is really about trusting your partner and, trusting that they're going to respect you and your goals. And this can be, of course, easier said than done, especially if you've had a partner who in the past hasn't been supportive of your goals, either in a past relationship or in the current one. It can be hard. However, your partner will be trusting you to respect their goals as well. So you should trust them to do the same for you. So you have to have that mutual respect for each other. And not keeping secrets also implies to letting your partner know about how you spend your money. So if you do make a major purchase, don't try to downplay how much it costs, especially if it was something larger that was maybe not initially planned for, that could impact your finances. And also if, you come into a relationship with debt, or you get into significant debt while you're with your partner, don't try to cover that up and downplay it. Bring it up as soon as possible. And it might feel uncomfortable at first, because essentially what you're doing is saying, hey, I made a mistake and now I need you to help me. And sometimes that can feel really hard and really uncomfortable, but your financial situation is also your partner's, especially if you're married. So 2 people can get rid of debt a lot faster than one. And your partner might also come up with some creative ways to help you eliminate the debt that you have in ways that you hadn't thought of before. So Again, you have to tag team it.
There used to be a radio program on where they would joke about this issue. And the running gag was, it was the 2-day rule. So if you bought something and you put it in, let's say, the garage, if it was a major purchase, let's say a motorcycle or a boat, and you put it in the garage and left it in plain enough sight so it wasn't hidden, and your partner didn't notice it for 2 days, then after the 2 days, you could refer to it as, oh, that old thing, I've had it for a long time.
Oh, boy. I don't know if that's a good idea, but that is pretty funny.
And obviously, it was done in jest, but it was
Yes.
to make the same point is, you're going to get busted eventually.
Yeah. Yes. You
All
will.
right.
It will catch up to you.
We'll take a quick break. We'll return with more Good Money Moves, talking about couples and finances. Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union with us on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
We are back with Good Money Moves. Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union. We are talking about financial goals, financial expectations, the financial future for couples, and how to deal with your financial relationship as part of your overall relationship. Oh my goodness, this sounds like a heavy topic when I say it that way, Jenna. So talk about being honest, setting goals.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we have? What other tips?
Yeah, so really the next piece of advice is to take advantage of both joint accounts and separate accounts for managing your money together. So, before in this program, not today, but in previous episodes, we have talked before about the benefits and kind of the drawbacks of having joint accounts with your partner. But this is a big piece of the puzzle because a lot of times you want to have a level of independence financially from your partner, and that's okay. And others really, really want to have that joint account to just make managing family finances easier. There's not necessarily a right or wrong way to do it. It's just really what your preference is. But, those having a joint account as a couple really does give a greater degree of transparency between each other, right? Both partners have to be honest with each other about what they're spending, which overall does tend to lead to better communication and ultimately promotes trust between you and your partner. Those joint accounts can also help you and your partner create a better family budget together. You'll both know how much each of you is bringing in and what your expenses are.
But on the other hand as well, usually in any relationship, one person seems to be in charge of, keeping the books.
Yeah, the bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
That's
it's a heck of a lot easier when there's just one book to keep.
Exactly. Yeah. However, if you do keep separate checking and or savings accounts, you do have that feeling of a little bit more independence. So your finances, you will also be able to really protect your money, right? If your relationship goes bad, if you have those separate accounts, separate accounts can also protect one partner's assets if the other partner has a lot of debt, for example. So, so take some time to really talk with your partner about whether or not a joint account, if you don't have one, maybe would help your financial situation or help your money talks going forward or not. If you decide to get a joint account, you can always figure out how much money you'd like to keep in that joint account and keep some in those separate accounts still, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can structure your family financial accounts to ensure that everything's getting paid and just making sure that you really have enough for, monthly budgets, that you guys are saving together for household repairs. You could even start a specific savings account for any joint financial goals that you have. And just having that money, some of the money in an account together can, again, foster that trust between each other. And you can both check on it at any time to make sure that, things are moving in the right direction. But really, no matter what you choose to do, and as far as structuring your accounts as a couple or a family, just make sure that it works for both you and your partner, and that everybody's comfortable with how things are playing out. But you're very right. Once you've kind of joined households together, having one person kind of managing those funds definitely helps. But again, if you don't ever want to have a joint account together and you just want to keep everything separate, that's okay too, if that's what works for you.
And the other aspect, because this is the difficult thing with this, that there are all sorts of different relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And me being married for more than 30 years, all I think of is a married relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If you have two people living together who are not married, then that could give you a great reason to have separate accounts, because
Exactly.
at that point your finances are not legally tied together.
Exactly.
They're tied together because you agreed to tie them together.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody does something super irresponsible, you're not going to be held responsible in that situation. Where if you are married, you're still going to be held responsible in one shape or form. Yeah. So there's a lot to talk about here and a lot to think about.
Exactly.
But also, the trust issue is important too, because I run into folks who, even though they did get married, held separate accounts. And let's say there were more than a few discussions.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't transparent.
Exactly. Yeah. Just because you do have those separate accounts from each other doesn't mean that you don't have to have a common understanding of what those accounts are being used for.
Yeah.
Or if you are working towards an individual goal, that you still have to share that information with your partner, so that they understand what's going on. Because at the end of the day, any choices you make that involve money, when you are in a relationship, they are going to affect your partner in some way, shape, or form. And out of respect for that person, you need to be open and honest about what you're doing with your finances, even if you don't join them together in any way, shape, or form. So
go back to step one, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. This is Good Money Moves. We're talking about couples and their finances and, ways to make them better, healthier. With Jenna Taubel, First Alliance Credit Union. We'll be back in a moment on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. Good Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back. Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell with Jenna Taubel, First Alliance Credit Union. Couples and their finances, partners and their finances, households and their finances. And we've been talking about being honest with each other, transparent, making plans and goals together. All really good advice, Jenna. And I remember we've kind of talked about this before, a long way back.
Yeah.
Any other steps that couples, I guess, must take?
Yeah. So like you said, most of the steps that we've talked about all have kind of one thing in common, and that is, in order to accomplish them, you have to communicate with your partner. And so this next step that I'm going to share has a little bit more of a concreteness to it, but you do still need to be on the same page with your partner about it, which again requires communication. So, and that is one of the goals that you really should have, is to save at least 10% of what both of you earn. And I know sounds like pretty standard saving advice, but when you start living together, you are going to want to have that extra money for a variety of different reasons, whether that's future goals, like you want to have kids someday, you want to buy a house, or you want to move somewhere else, or even just if you own a home, right? Those emergencies that come up, like your basement floods, or your roof needs to be reshingled after a hailstorm, or you need, to cover an insurance deductible if something happens to your house or your car, or medically, right? These are all things that, need to be in the forefront of your mind for your family unit.
Because it's not, they might happen, they will happen. A lot
They
of
will.
those.
Yes, they will. I don't even want to talk about how many of those I've had to go through already. And I'm sure you would say the same thing, Andy.
I haven't been flooded yet.
You're lucky.
Everything else on the list, yes.
Yeah. But, it is arguably more important to save money as a couple, even more so, especially when you start to have, a family and that home that you've bought and, whatever that is. But, if you and your partner are already putting aside 10% of your paycheck, that is great. If not, now is definitely the time to start, right? You mentioned at the start of the show that, hey, tax season's here. If you are getting some money back and you have nothing in savings, if you don't have to spend that money on something from an emergency standpoint, don't save it. That can be the start of your emergency fund. But agree on that as a couple, right? That is what needs to happen with that. If you don't have any money in savings, or you're not already actively saving even 5% of your income, right? You got to start somewhere. But you can even use that joint checking account that we talked about earlier to make sure that both of you are setting that money aside as planned. So you can kind of hold yourselves accountable that way, and really once you've gotten into the habit of saving regularly and try to increase the amount you save, you can increase this amount as little as 1% each year until you start to hit your goal. Or of course, if if one of you in the relationship receives a raise at work, you can probably think about putting more of that money into savings and continue to live on what you would normally have been living on. That's a really great way to kind of continue to bump up those savings numbers. And I also want to point out that if money is tight and you don't, again, have to save 10%, but at least try to figure out what is comfortable for you, and then try to gradually increase that as you maybe reach other financial goals. Maybe the reason you can't save 10% now is because you need to pay off a lot of debt. That's okay. Focus on getting that debt paid down, but still try to find a little bit of money to put away each month to start building that habit for yourself as a couple.
Yeah. And so much of this is the psychology of money and finances.
It is.
The savings, even when you're first starting out and you are, like many of us, we started out, it was definitely paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And many times the bills seem to overwhelm you just because that's life.
Yes.
But if you just that little bit, putting it aside, you'd be surprised how quickly it becomes not a little bit.
Yeah.
And over time, it provides so much stability.
It really does.
It's like this giant
peace of mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's this thing you have there that, okay, and we weathered these storms, and now this is where we're at. And yeah, I can't emphasize enough how much importance there is to having that there for your meeting those future goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, too, how good for your relationship to have set forth a goal together and achieved it together,
right,
and being able to celebrate the achievement of that goal together. That is going to do so much good for your relationship. And if you're starting out and you're, maybe you've never really talked about goals together, start something small. You don't have to go big out the gate. Maybe you both want that expensive espresso machine, right? Save for it. If that's what's going to make you both happy, that's a great kind of small first step towards working together for something. And that's really what this is all about.
I still remember when we first got married, it was a big deal to us. We saved up money to buy a new couch.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got that new couch delivered, it was such a huge deal to us.
Yeah.
This was our first major purchase together, and, obviously it led to a lot of really, really good things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just the couch, but the idea of that teamwork.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is so important.
Fantastic stuff as always, Jenna. And of course, there's tons more out there, and you can tell us where we can find out more about these, communication, transparency, and honesty aspects, and saving, and all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as always, I encourage our listeners to visit our website at firstalliancecu.com. Get subscribed to our blog. We release new financial tips and advice every week. You can go back and listen to past episodes of this show at firstalliancecu.com/podcast or on krocnews.com. You can also subscribe to Good Money Moves on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts. And of course, if you love our show, please take a minute to leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Or if you have a financial topic or a question you'd like us to cover on Good Money Moves, please send me an email at marketing@firstalliancecu.com. And we talked about a lot of different things today about how to have those conversations as a couple. We have a lot of free resources in our resource center on our website at firstalliancecu.com that can help you have those conversations and set those goals together. Goal setting worksheets, budgeting calculators, debt consolidation calculators, debt payoff organization worksheets, all kinds of free stuff that you can go out and download to help kind of organize and start having those really good conversations as a couple. And of course, I strongly encourage you just to reach out to our team at First Alliance Credit Union. They're here to help you start making good money moves today.
That's First Alliance Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA and an equal housing lender. Thanks a lot, Jenna.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll do this again next week with another episode of Good Money Moves on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.